Hey guys, it's Vig. I always get questions from you guys asking how to team fight properly. So I'm going to teach you guys the fundamentals for team fighting while going over some of my team fights to see both what I did wrong and what I did right. Team fighting involves 4 core fundamentals: awareness, targeting, adaptiveness, and timing. Awareness is both knowing what's a threat to you and also knowing where everyone is in the team fight, right? If I'm running in but the enemy assassin is on my flank and I don't notice it, I'm just going to die, right? You need to be aware of what enemy cooldowns they have. You need to be paying attention for that, and you need to also be paying attention to where the enemy is. Targeting. Targeting is knowing who the biggest threat is and making sure that you can focus them, and also focusing down who your team is hitting as well. If my original goal going to the team fight is killing the Fed Jinx, then I need to be sticking to that for most of the team fight. Unless, say, she's not in the fight, then I need to retarget, right? If my team is all hitting the most fed guy, then I should probably hit with them. Adaptiveness. You have to be able to think on the fly. Team fights are fluid. Just because you go into a team fight with a plan doesn't mean that plan is always going to be what you end up doing, right? If you go into every team fight with a plan and then that plan doesn't work out, well, you have to be able to do something else. Again, using the Jinx example, if my initial goal going into the team fight is hitting the Jinx, but the Jinx is too far for me, or I need to hit the tanks to end up getting to the Jinx, then that's that fluidity I'm talking about. And timing. Nothing is more important on Samira than timing. Nothing is more important on Samira than timing. I'm going to repeat it one more time. Nothing is more important on Samira than timing. I see a lot of you guys will ask me, well, why did you go in there? Why did you do this at this time? It's always fluid. I'm never just always going in at the same time in every fight and playing it the same way. Timing is key. Knowing when to time your flash and put all your damage on the backline is key. If your timing is off, you will just end up getting CC'd and dying, right? Now that we've got the fundamentals out the way, we're going to see what I do in these team fights and how I play them, and then analyze if I'm actually using them correctly and how you guys should do it, right? Because you got to do it for example. I'm going to show you guys the examples so you guys can use it in your games. This next team fight is all about targeting. So in this team fight, you're going to watch me ignore their Garen and just straight up walk on their way. So I know that Garen actually isn't a big damage threat at this point in the game. He doesn't have that many items. And I know that Wei is the biggest threat. Our goal here is to kill enough people to stall for the drag because my mid laner and my top laner died, right? So I want to stall them from taking the dragon. And the best way for me to do that is killing their biggest damage threats. So that would be Wei and Kindred. So you'll see here that when me and Rel go, we ignore the Garen that's here. Why? Because I can just dash away from him. A lot of times when you're dealing with these tanks with low mobility, you can actually just kite away from them and they won't be able to do anything. And you see the example of this in this team fight. So I'm going to end up dashing onto Wei. Garen can't really do anything about it. He silences me. And then I end up going on their backline. And it's honestly fine that I die here because I end up killing the Kindred. And this stalls the drag, and we end up killing 3. It's perfectly worth sometimes to die. Sometimes it is acceptable to die for the play. You'll see me go on a lot of times, and you guys will ask me, like, well, weren't you afraid of dying there? I'm never afraid of dying as long as I get something for it. So me getting 3 and stalling the dragon is completely worth my death, especially because I didn't have a shutdown. Now, when you're factoring in shutdowns and things, it complicates your worthness a bit. And how worth the play is always going to depend on the stage of the game. If I have a shutdown, but I can kill 5 people and guarantee my team Baron, for example, even if I have a big shutdown, if I have to die for a play, I'm going to die for the play. Alright, so this team fight right here is a good example of using your adaptiveness to actually get to the backline. So I see my team fighting here, and I want to get into this fight from a safe distance without having to go right on top of Sion or Garen initially. But it doesn't end up happening that way because I have to actually go in to save my Ivern here. I know that if I go in front of my Ivern, he will most likely be able to keep me sustained. So I don't mind actually going melee into Sion and Garen. The problem is I didn't see that Wei was over the wall here because I didn't have vision of him until the Daisy actually walked into him. What ends up happening is I end up getting free hit a bit from Wei, but I ended up blocking a bit of his damage, which ended up being fine, and I barely was able to survive his combo. I end up almost dying here, but I get like very well peeled for my team, and then this allows me to go on the way and kill all 3. The best thing there was my adaptiveness. I was able to go in, protect my Ivern, and then I was able to actually kill the target I wanted to kill, right? You don't always get to go on the target you want to at the start of the fight, right? But I know that Wei doesn't actually have the damage to one-shot me fully through Ivern Shield, so I'm able to target their tanks because they're killing my team, and this allows me to win the team fight. Don't always be afraid to hit tanks. Am I a tank killing champion? Not really. However, sometimes you have to go on the tanks. Because, like, if I don't go on the tanks there, my team just dies, right? You literally have to go on the tanks sometimes or dash through them to actually get to the backline. The thing I could have done better there was my timing. I should have kited out their cooldowns a bit more before going in. And had I been looking at and aware of Wei's positioning initially, then I wouldn't have gone in like that. And I would have actually been able to block Wei's ult. And it would have been a much cleaner fight. However, the fight still went fine. The outcome was fine. They use most of their cooldowns on me. And sometimes it's good to actually draw cooldowns and draw attention away from your team. Because the thing is, their team was so focused on me that my teamo actually went in the back and killed 2 of their teammates, killed the rest of their backline and made them back off, right? So it ended up working out. This team fight is another good example of targeting. So I want you guys to watch how when my Ivern hits the snare here on Kindred, I see the Scion here, but I'm not scared of Scion at all because once again, I want to drive home the point that most tanks don't have the mobility to actually keep up with you, right? So I just dash through his Q and simply ignore him and go for Kindred because she is the biggest target, right? The most important one because she's the jungler and we're trying to pressure an objective. And then the rest of them ends up running away. I want to like preface the point that like these tanks, they can't actually keep up with you. And you can honestly kite away from them. You see this whole fight I'm just kiting away from their tanks. And notice how slow I'm playing as well and waiting for cooldown. So there, I end up dashing past the Scion Q. And just kiting away from Garen. Garen cannot touch me at all. And he's just dead. And that's free Baron. I'm not scared of these tank champs. They cannot do it. Usually, most of the time, these tank champs cannot do anything to you. Notice how I'm just kiting away from the Scion and kiting away from the Garen into my team. If these tank champions want to dive, or these bruiser champions want to dive into your full team, if they kill you, then so be it. You know, you can't do anything about that. But you should, in the ideal scenario, be able to kite into your team and have them peel you away from these tank champions. The ideal, again, is to not be stuck hitting the tanks. But if you have to hit the tanks like I had to do in this game because the Scion was the most fed, then you just have to hit the tanks. You're going to have to live with that and you're going to have to kill them. The ideal is killing their damage carries first, but if the bruisers and tanks are the most damaging champs on their team, like in this game the Scion did the most damage, then I'm hitting them after their backline's dead. If their backline is still a threat and the tanks are a threat, you're always going on backline first. That's why I ignored the Scion there and went for the Kindred first. The enemy team is taking Baron. They end up backing off with the Baron, but I get stalled here by Bartle. And this leads to me being kind of dizzy in this team fight. You see, I'm looking at their Caitlyn here, but then I get ulted by the Diana. And I end up killing the Diana, but I end up just dying because I wasn't paying attention for Yi or Diana. In this team fight, I definitely lacked the timing. I went in way too fast. I should have waited and played slower and waited to flash over the wall after the Caitlyn. And I also lacked the awareness. I wasn't actually looking at where the Yi or the Diana was. I tunneled way too hard on the Caitlyn, and that's what led to me dying. Now I'll show you guys another team fight where I lacked the timing. I went too fast, and then it led to me dying. So here, we're camping the bush right before Dragon for the Udyr. But the Udyr isn't the proper target because he's too tanky and I can't burst him. But here, I try to burst him anyway because he's the most fed member of the team. But it ended up not being good, and I ended up just dying anyway after because Yi just chases me down. I lacked the timing, and I lacked the awareness because I wasn't paying attention to where the Yi and Diana were. And I also had terrible targeting here because I shouldn't really be all-inning the enemy Udyr anyway, because that's just going to lead to me dying every time, right? So to wrap this all up, in conclusion, you got 4 fundamentals, things you got to keep in mind in a team fight. You got your awareness, keeping in mind who's going to kill you, what cooldowns they have, where everyone is at, right? Your targeting. Who should you be hitting in the team fight? Who is the important target? Who is the important person to kill? And who is your team hitting so you can follow up? Adaptiveness. You got to be able to think on the fly. Like in that fight in mid where they dove me under the turret. The whole time I'm thinking who I'm going to hit next. Even while I'm CC'd, I'm still ready to go in right after the CC ends, and I know exactly what I want to do right after. And timing. Timing is probably the most important concept out of all of them in this video. If you took anything from this video, if you took anything from all these concepts, the most important one is timing. If your timing is off, you will miss kills. You will die immediately as soon as going in. You need to have important timing when you're playing a champion like Samira. Samira is not an ADC. She is more of an assassin bruiser. And assassins are all about timing. ADC champs are about DPS. Samira is not a DPS champ. She can DPS. She's more of an assassin that has some DPS, right? So, that's the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, please drop me a like. And leave me some comments. Give me some critique. You know, I don't do many commentary videos like this very often. And I want to do more in the future. So please, you know, give me your thoughts in the comments. See you guys.